Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Fox 10 Talks. If you're still watching Fox 10 TV, you're getting another hour of Sherry's show, but we are going to be bringing you some of the latest information with our election coverage as it continues this morning. Now, here's a treat. For those of you who enjoy watching the pods, Syleste generally makes her big appearance at about 4 after. Syleste, you're already here.
Ron, I am, because this time you came to me, and usually I'm coming to you in the podcast room. And it has been a very busy morning as well, as you know, with election coverage. And we look forward to hearing from all you on our chat box, on the chat on YouTube, because we're streaming there live as well. And if you have any questions about Election Day coverage, your thoughts and things like that, feel free to share them there.
Why is it that when I hear you speak, I feel like I'm hearing an echo in the Grand Canyon?
Oh, Syleste. Ron, why do you sound like my kids?
All right. Yeah, you just saw Danielle. We're going to check in with her in about 60 seconds. We have a whole plan for this whole hour for you. If you are new to the podcast, you can check it out on YouTube. That's what Syleste was talking about. We have a loyal audience there. Just kind of give us your feedback, how you're feeling about the election this time around. And we will get you all the latest when it comes to that. We would love to get your feedback. Did you vote in person today? Did you vote a week ago? You know, kind of what your status is. Syleste will be checking in on that. But we're also, in about 10 minutes, going to be checking in with Doug Luzader, one of the top Fox political reporters. He's right there in West Palm Beach, where we just heard President Trump speak over the last few minutes. We're going to be checking in with him. And we also have an update for you on the final RCP average of the polls in each of these 7 swing states, because, believe it or not, there's been some movement in the last 24 hours. We'll tell you who's happy about that, maybe not so happy. That's all coming up.
Yeah, and it has been a wild morning already. I mean, a lot of you, if you're heading to the polls, some of the long lines that we are seeing at some locations, it's because, Ron, our ballot is so long here in Arizona. I think we had the Secretary of State speaking earlier this morning, 70 plus different things to vote for on your ballot. Quick mention here to James Fine. Good morning from Texas. You're watching this morning. Lisa Dinsmore from Payson, and B. Miguel, good morning to you as well.
Yeah, all right, Brandon. He's a loyal YouTube viewer, that's for sure. All right, so tell your friends and neighbors about the podcast, because we just continue on every morning. Here's what we thought we'd do over the next couple of minutes is to check in with Danielle. Ever since we went on the air at 4:30 this morning, she's been giving us the latest. I mean, she's been able to talk to county officials. She's right outside there at the vote center. So Danielle, bring us up to speed. What have you learned over the last 5.5 hours?
Yeah, guys, good morning. So we're here at the Maricopa County Elections Department. This is not an in-person voting location. There is a drop box outside, but inside here, this is where all of the county officials are inside. They're doing all of the war room, if you will. They have a massive screen set up. They can see every single polling location throughout the entire county. They can see real-time wait times there. They can also see if any type of issues arise at any of those polling locations, and they can direct some help to those specific polling locations. So far this morning, we do know that there's about 246 polling locations spread throughout the entire county, and they're telling us that there's been about 65,000 people checked in so far to those in-person voting sites. Bill Gates, the county supervisor, was telling me they're expecting about 300,000 people to vote in person here today. We do know about 1.5 million people voted early, so that's a lot of those numbers that are going to be released right at 8 o'clock tonight. So once again, polls opened bright and early at 6 o'clock this morning. They will be open until 7 p.m. And as long as people are in line right at 7 p.m., you will not be turned away. You can still cast your vote. And those official election results are going to start rolling in right around 8 o'clock tonight. And here in Maricopa County, you do not have to go to a specific voting location. You can go to any location throughout the entire valley. So say you work in downtown Phoenix, but you live far away in Gilbert, Arizona, you can cast your vote right here in downtown Phoenix on your lunch break, or you can go closer to home in Gilbert. So still plenty of time to get out there. We have heard so far the wait times are very low. That's according to the Maricopa County Elections Department. I think the largest wait time that they have seen so far today was about a 30-minute wait, but we know that this year it is a 2-page ballot. So people have a lot to consider, a lot to look at on that ballot here. So possibly taking people a little bit longer than in years past to cast their vote, but they're asking everybody to just be patient, wait in those lines. And once again, you can go to any location throughout the valley. So if you pop on their website, you see a location that has a slower wait time, you can go there instead. So still plenty of time. And we do have a press conference coming up with county officials at 11 o'clock this morning. So we will get the full update of what's been happening here this morning.
Okay, yeah, that was actually going to be one of my first questions for you. We see the podium and the microphone behind you. What are we going to hear? And that's a great idea, I think, to jump in every few hours. We heard about a problem here, or everything's been running as smoothly as possible. But it's interesting, Danielle. I believe the number they were saying for voting today in Maricopa County could be between, I think I actually got this from your earlier Q&A with one of the county election officials there, could be between 300 and 400,000 despite near record numbers of early votes.
Yeah, that's exactly right there. So about 1.5 million people already voted in that early voting. So they're expecting about 300 to 400,000 people to show up to the polls today. So some of those first numbers that we're going to see is going to be that 1.5 million, that drop of all of those people who voted early. That's coming at 8 o'clock tonight. And yeah, and for this press conference out here, it's kind of weird being in the media. I remember back in the day when people would be able to go in here and actually cast their vote here in person, but now it's just been very busy. It is a lot happening here, so even the media now has to stay outside here. It is blocked off with gates and everything like that, so a lot of security, as you can imagine, here at the elections department. So it's all the poll workers, they're inside here, they're tabulating those ballots. We have the county officials who are there as well. They are in that room that I mentioned with that big screen. They're monitoring everything, but 11 o'clock, that's when we're going to get our next update. But about 24 minutes ago, I did get updated. About 65,000 people have checked in to voting centers here in Maricopa County so far.
Have you, Danielle, seen, I know you mentioned you can't go into this location where you're located right now to vote. Have you seen people driving up trying to, like maybe they just weren't sure or didn't know?
No, I have not seen anybody. There is a drop box, though. So a lot of people have been coming in. You can go in one particular part of the parking lot. You can drop that ballot in the box, and then you drive directly out. So there's gates kind of fenced off to show you exactly where to go. But I haven't really seen any type of spectators or voters
that means
or
it's working,
like that.
right? Their communication is getting out there, and folks know what to do.
I like the reference that we had earlier in one of your reports, Danielle, where they're saying because there are so many voting centers, what's the number? It's well over 200 voting centers in Maricopa County.
246 voting centers.
246. And he was saying, hey, you know what? If you live in Gilbert, but you work in Surprise, you don't have to go back to Gilbert.
No.
You can get your vote done in Surprise over your lunch hour
and
or whatever.
Save some gas money, save some gasoline. That's a long drive. God bless you.
That's possibly the best public service announcement of the whole day. Do not get in the car and drive back to Gilbert. By the way, if you're working in Surprise, don't live in Gilbert. Everybody wants to live in Gilbert, but that's too much of a commute.
Wise words from Ron. There you go.
Yeah, that's for sure. But overall, Danielle, I mean, if we kind of wrap it up with you, it seems to me that so far they're pretty optimistic they can get through this day with the biggest numbers we have ever seen. Let's face it, right from the top on down in this election. There's great interest. There's no doubt about it. I mean, everybody's got their opinions on whether it's the propositions or the race for the presidency, that we can handle it. And if anything, it might go smoother this time than what we've seen in a few of our previous elections.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get frustrated, you know, why can't we have the results exactly what they're supposed to be the day of? But, you know, we have those 2-page ballots. There are so many of the early voting, in-person voting. So a lot has to happen to be able to calculate those ballots. And according to Bill Gates, the supervisor for Maricopa County, he was telling us that we could expect about 10 to 13 days to start getting some more solid, concrete numbers. That first drop of about 1.5 million people, that will be happening at 8 o'clock tonight. And then he said it's kind of a slow roll. So they just continue to work 24 hours a day, kind of counting those ballots, and then a slow roll of those numbers will start coming out kind of throughout the next few days or so. And about 10 to 13 days is when he was estimating that they should have things completely wrapped up with some more official, solid numbers.
Well, coming up in a few minutes, Fox has done a fascinating analysis on which states are the slowest to count and which states are the fastest. I don't want to give anything away.
Right, but you can guess where we land.
We're not on the tip top of the fastest, I can tell you that. That's for sure. But, you know, maybe it's because we try to be more thorough than some of these other states. Who knows? Maybe someday that'll change. But it's encouraging, I think, for voters today. For the most part, no major problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And what Bill Gates was also saying out here is that, you know, he prefers everything to be accurate rather than speedy. He wants things to be correct and official, and some of the things like that, it takes time.
Yeah, okay. Danielle, great.
Thank you, Danielle.
By the way, I wonder sometimes if you have to go to, like, this is a course at journalism school, how to speak when you can barely hear yourself speak, let alone the anchors, when you have 737s flying directly over your head.
Right, I think so.
You know what I'm talking about there?
That is a talent, a true skill.
Yeah. All right, so here's what's coming up. We just wanted to mention we have poll monitors that are in place. You know, there are several counties where they are, in fact, the Department of Justice has sent out poll monitors to 4 different counties in Arizona to make sure everything runs smoothly today, so that's an encouraging sign. Although a couple of states have actually sued, Texas and Missouri, saying we don't want you here. One other note, Celeste, your story, I know we only have seconds left before the break, but how the San Diego Zoo is going to be live streaming video to calm you down today.
Oh yes, because if you're standing in line waiting to vote, you may need something to help calm you down.
Right?
You know, if you have chitter chatter from people in line near you, you know, it's you don't want anything to get too hostile.
Right.
So we'll have more on that with the Calm app and how they're helping you here in a little bit.
Yeah. So all of that is, well, it's just great. This is Fox 10 Talks, the podcast that keeps the info rolling. We'll be back.
welcome back.
Yeah. Okay. Fox 10 Talks. We're the new podcast. You can catch us on YouTube and on the Fox local app, as well as Fox 10 Phoenix. Celeste, we have a great time.
We do.
It's a little more of a casual approach.
It is.
Packed with information.
Snacks are on the way because it's like, we have a little viewing party going on in the loft here.
I have seen no snacks. I haven't even seen an Uber Eats guy show up today.
Oh, no. That is a crime.
That's a crime. Wasn't today supposed to be like 20% off or something?
Yeah, 50.
Oh, that's to go vote.
50, only to the polling places, by the way. Uber and Lyft have this deal. It's 50% off your ride, up to $10 if you need a ride to the polls.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to hear from some of our YouTube
Yes, what are our
chat
chatters
friends?
saying?
So let's see. So Nathan Pugh says if we have an issue with counting ballots, maybe AI could help us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what he's,
okay.
Did
you see we had that? They did a study today. This is fascinating. One of my favorite stories of the day.
Yes.
They asked parents to compare how AI responded to their health questions versus a real doctor. And in this study, the parents chose AI over the real doctor. Not so much for the information, but for how quick you could get it as opposed to how long you had to wait.
Oh, yes, because it comes up so fast.
Right.
And it's actually pretty thorough.
Yes.
You just have to wonder if all of it's true.
Right.
You just have to
But
do your
I don't
own
think I
homework.
want to get AI involved in the election process.
So we have a couple. James Fine says he voted.
Okay.
Alex Eli says great day in Glendale.
Oh, nice.
So we have people all over the country, Texas, Georgia, everyone kind of chiming in on our chat box here on YouTube. And thank you for hanging with us. Ron and I love connecting with you guys here on the pod on YouTube. So we love, and our Mystery Cam is coming up. Some of you have asked on YouTube. Mystery Cam is coming up at 10:45 this morning, but this is an hour-long podcast. Ron, people have asked, and
they've pleaded.
And yes.
They've cajoled.
They've protested.
They've protested. It hasn't gotten to that point yet. But a lot of people, when we wrap up at 10:28, especially in the YouTube chat box, they're like, no, don't go. We want more.
We want an hour. We want an hour.
Well,
so
there's a lot going on today. And so that's exactly the way we wanted to do it, is get you a full hour worth of information. And by the way, when we have our coverage later this evening on Fox 10, we believe the first batch of voting info, some of the early results, is going to be coming in at about 8 o'clock our time.
Right.
So we invite you to either keep it online here, the Fox local app, and on YouTube. We're going to have just continuous coverage as the day goes on. And then also on Fox 10 TV and fox10phoenix.com. I think our coverage is just going to be outstanding.
It is.
And by 8 o'clock or within a few minutes of that, we actually will get a pretty solid view at where things stand. There's so much interest in this presidential race. But don't forget, Senate race, control of the House.
We have some big races. I think this is maybe the first election in so many years that Arizona has been such an important part of the national election, the federal races. We've always been important, but I think during COVID we had so many independent voters and people come from other states and moved to Arizona because they wanted to move here, and it has changed the landscape of our politics here in Arizona a little bit.
Yeah, that's really interesting because we had a massive influx from a blue state, which is California. Yeah. And so you would think, well, maybe that would make our voting populace slightly more Democrat-leaning.
More blue.
Because they're coming in from California. But if you talk to people who moved here, at least a lot of them, they moved here because they didn't like the politics of California. So is that going to have any kind of an impact on how the vote goes in the state of Arizona? Because over the course of the pandemic, those 2 years or so, those were some pretty big numbers of people moving specifically from California.
Yeah, I think we've had, now if you look at some of the numbers, it's 30% Republican, 30% Independent, 30% Democrat, and so you have kind of split in thirds the pie. You mentioned the lines at the polling places, Ron, waiting for the big announcements with some of those early poll numbers coming in at like 8 p.m. tonight. We teased it before the break, but this Calm app, this is they're partnering with the Phoenix Zoo where you can watch the pandas cuddle together.
The San Diego Zoo.
Oh, the San Diego Zoo, that's right. Thank you, Ron.
Although that giraffe at the Phoenix Zoo,
you can feed him.
He could get me
You
snoozing.
can feed him, yes. But you can watch the pandas cuddle and the tigers.
It's great.
If you feel a little stressed out, and obviously you may not have a stuffy anymore. you know, then that might be your Steffi on the app.
Hey, Syleste, one of our favorite guys on the morning show. He joins us every morning right around 5 a.m. To me, he's the smartest political reporter we got going.
By far.
From
in
Fox.
The country.
Correct. And normally he would be coming to us live from Washington, but today he's in sunny Florida. When we checked in with him at 5 this morning, which was 7 their time, it was still kind of blustery. First, give us the weather report, Doug, and then we'll dig into the politics.
Well, the weather report here is, well, listen, for November, we'll take it, right? But it is pretty windy here. And that's going to continue apparently through the course of the day. It's interesting when we look at a state like Pennsylvania, though, weather it looks really, really good in that state. And, you know, oftentimes in November it's awfully cold up there, so that may help juice turnouts in one of the important swing states.
You know what's interesting about that, Doug? I know Syleste has a bunch of questions for you, too. But then I see we have this system now where we have live pictures from basically all over the country. And it didn't look like great weather in Iowa.
No, it was raining in Iowa earlier.
Yeah, and I don't think that people are so passionate about this election. I don't think the weather's going to, you know, if you know your local roads and highways, you're going to figure out how to get to your polling location in Iowa. But Doug, this time tomorrow we'll have a pretty good idea of what actually happened in Iowa. But what are we supposed to make of the fact that one of the most highly respected polling organizations in the U.S. says it's Kamala Harris by 3, and yet another highly respected on the very same day comes out with a poll, Emerson, and says, oh no, it's Trump by almost 10 points, 9 points. What are we to make of all that?
Yeah, I mean, to put it mildly, that Des Moines Register poll over the weekend threw everyone for a loop. Now, you know, we talk about polls being accurate 95 out of 100 times. So every once in a while, you're going to get one that's just not in the ballpark. Maybe that's the case here. Maybe it's accurate. We don't know. But Iowa's not a state that we really talk about too much in general elections. We talk about it in the primaries, the Iowa caucuses. We talk about that all the time ad nauseum. But in the general election, we don't really think of Iowa as being a state in play for the White House, and all of a sudden this poll came out indicating that Kamala Harris may have had a lead there. When we start watching returns coming in from Iowa, if it confirms that lead, that may be a game changer, but you know, it may just be an aberration as well. We don't know, but it certainly turned a lot of things on their heads, at least initially, when these numbers came in.
And then not too far from where you're located, down in the southeast, where we had those 2 hurricanes move through, they've had to put up tents, right, to allow people to actually make it in to vote.
Talking about Georgia, North Carolina?
Yeah, temporary polling places.
Yeah, good point.
Right. And just to flip on the Wayback Machine, you know, in 2020, you look at those 2 states, North Carolina and Georgia. North Carolina took the Associated Press 10 days to call in 2020. Georgia took 16 days.
Wow.
That's how long it took to call those 2 states 4 years ago. This time around, they're obviously making all kinds of efforts to try to get folks to the polls, even though they're facing all kinds of difficulties. But yeah, I mean, those are 2 of the 7 states, including Arizona, of course, that we're going to be watching very, very closely.
Doug, I've heard some real commentary today that people need to be paying a little bit more attention to control of Congress, that it looks like Republicans are going to, just because of the way the map is working, so many Democrats trying to defend their spots. In fact, I did see one poll today out of Ohio that showed Sherrod Brown falling behind. It'll be interesting to see what happens there in Ohio. But give us, if you can, we only have about a minute left, your take on what might or might not happen in the House.
Well, look, yeah, and you know, you're right. The map certainly favors Republicans in the Senate. The House, boy, there are so many races in play there. I mean, that could really go just about any direction you could imagine. So, you know, we're watching a lot of them. It's anyone's guess. I mean, this is like the presidential race in that the House and the Senate are both just about split right down the middle. So I think while the Senate certainly favors Republicans, the House is a little bit more of a toss-up right now.
Well, Doug, I gotta say, your tan on the beach in Florida looks really good.
Celeste, that's all makeup.
I don't
Hold
know.
on a moment.
I don't know
That's
how.
all makeup.
I don't know how you scored with this gig and this assignment today, buddy. But kudos to you, and we're happy that you're in this location and not in some snowy blizzard.
Well, that's true. That's true. And you know, the thing is, we don't know how long we're going to be here because no one knows how long it's going to take to get these results to come in. And look, maybe we're all wrong. Maybe this is a landslide one direction or another. But if the polls are accurate, and that's a big if, but if they are accurate, we may be here a while.
Good. All right. If you have to be stuck anywhere, why not West Palm Beach? Doug, thank you. Love having you on the 5 a.m. hour.
That's right. We'll take
Love having you on the pod at 10.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Good to see you, Doug.
All right. So isn't he just great?
He is a wealth of knowledge, and you can ask him anything, throw any question his way, and he has great perspective, and he's really amazing.
Yeah. Hey, let's get
Much
you.
like you, Ron.
Oh, Celeste, thank you for that unexpected compliment. Let's roll some video here. The propositions. If you haven't actually pulled out your booklet,
Yes.
and I mean it's like a phone book this year.
You're going to cry when you pull it out, actually.
Wait till you start going through that.
You might cry.
I think it took my wife and I 45 minutes just to go through their props.
Same. And some of them, this is the kind of the funky thing with these propositions, they're not always written in a way that's easy to understand. So you really have to do your homework.
Yeah. So let's just tell you about some of them. If you haven't looked yet, by the way, you know, you can take your crib notes in with you to go vote, and they're hoping people aren't just suddenly going to get these props sprung on them. Ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Prop 133 would make it constitutionally required to have partisan primaries. And yet, we'll tell you about another prop later down the line that basically would do the opposite.
So Prop 134 would require citizen-backed ballot initiatives to gather signatures from at least 15% of voters in the state's 30 legislative districts. And that one is pretty meaty, so you got to look into that one a little bit.
Prop 135 would limit the governor's emergency powers to just 30 days unless the legislature approves an extension. That's because of some of the controversy over the way it was all handled during the course of the pandemic.
Prop 137 would create term limits for Supreme Court and Superior Court justices.
Prop 139 would put the right to an abortion until the point of fetal viability as a constitutional right.
And Prop 140, which would replace partisan primaries in favor of an open primary system. Of course, for the details on all of those, you can head to fox10phoenix.com.
Don't even ask me what happens if those two opposing propositions both pass.
Brother.
Yeah. All right, should we take a quick break?
Let's do it, Ron.
Okay, come chat with Okay, 10:30, and welcome back to the podcast that just keeps the info rolling in a little bit more of a kind of a casual style. It's Fox 10 Talks. I'm Ron Hoon, and Syleste Rodriguez joins. Syleste, we are finally breaking new ground here at 10:30 and 30 seconds.
We started now with the second half hour. So,
Right.
And Linda is saying in our chat box on YouTube, we love chatting with you guys, that yay, she's excited about the full hour of the pod.
Good.
Yes.
Now, Linda, is that Linda in Payson or is that Linda in Thatcher?
I think it's Linda in Payson.
Oh, good. Yes, right.
A couple more. Ron, you want to hear some chats
Yeah,
from
for
our
sure.
chat box?
Yeah, what are folks saying?
James Fine says the main reason I moved out of New Jersey after retiring as a cop was to get away from the blue politics, come out to a freer state like Arizona, and now he has moved to Texas.
Oh, is that right?
And he still watches.
He joins us every day.
Yes, he watches.
All you have to do is spend a little bit of time here in the Valley, and you're like, I like that Fox 10.
That's right. And then we were talking to Doug Luzader just a brief moment ago, and we were talking about the weather, right? Because he's in Florida. Jack Lambert says, when you come from somewhere that has active weather, most days you don't stop your life. You just do what you do. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, on election day, you head out and vote.
Right. So let's go ahead and get you just a little bit of information in terms of what the presidential candidates were doing last night. I thought this was really interesting, Syleste, because if you go back and look at the day yesterday, you had 3 different stops for Kamala Harris, all 3 in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And we've been saying for a very long time that's what, no surprise there. It's just tough to look at the map and see a path forward for either, and there are paths, but for either candidate, whoever takes that plum prize of the 19 electoral votes of the state of Pennsylvania really has the inside track to winning the election. So no surprise that she was there last night. I believe I saw that Lady Gaga was going to perform.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, I mean, anytime you can get a concert on top of some political talk, that's going to attract some people.
Well, I
right?
think when Beyonce came, weren't people hoping she would sing? Did she sing? I don't think she sang.
In Houston.
Do we know if Lady Gaga is actually going to perform? We don't know.
Well, I think if she did, it had to already have happened.
Okay.
Right. I don't think it's a day of thing. I mean, unless she's so inspired she wants to come out and perform live.
I mean, you never know. If one's a performer, always a performer, Ron.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But let's bring you up to speed. Here's what Kamala Harris had to say last night in Philly. Closing arguments.
And we have an opportunity in this election to finally turn the page on a decade of politics that has been driven by fear and division. We are done with that. We're done. We're exhausted with it.
Okay, that was the closing statement in Philadelphia. We don't believe she has any events today. And in fact is settling in for an afternoon talking with political advisors, and then she'll be at her alma mater of Howard University there in the Washington, D.C. area for a election night gathering. Now, what about former President Donald Trump? He was in Raleigh,
yes,
North Carolina, which was a little bit of a surprise, but it won't be, I think, when I share with you what's going on with the polling in Raleigh. So that's how he started his morning. Next thing you know, he's in Pittsburgh, and Megyn Kelly, who now is a big podcaster, was one of his guest speakers out there.
You know, I think it's interesting because do you recall, I think, when she was moderating one of the debates, and they had this heated moment years ago. It might have been the first time he ran for president.
Really?
He was on stage, I remember.
Okay, yeah.
And I read her book, and she talked about it at length in her book. She said she was sick as a dog. She had like the flu that day. And anyway, so they had this heated moment. And so for a while, they did not get along. And so she talks at length about on her podcast that it's not really, I mean, the man necessarily, but she likes his policies. And so she went up on stage and spoke in favor of him.
So let's hear what President Trump's closing argument was last night. This is his final stop of the day in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
We can fix every single problem our country faces and lead America, indeed the world, to new heights of glory. But indeed, think of that statement, how beautiful that is. New heights of glory, that's what's going to happen.
You know, there'd been some talk that his political advisor said you got to close on a high note, and that's what he was trying to do last night in Grand Rapids, which every election cycle, this is sort of a nod to tradition. He's wrapped things up in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh, maybe he has a superstitious type of thing, you
Could
know,
be.
where he's like, we're going to finish it up here too.
Could be. Obviously, it's a little more red-leaning there in the western half of Michigan, as opposed to Detroit and Ann Arbor. In the eastern half is a little more blue trending. And by the way, if you're ever there in Grand Rapids, be sure to go to the Gerald Ford Presidential Museum. It's actually so impressive. I think what we ought to do now, here on the pod, and sometimes that's the way we roll. We're like, hey, what if we tried this?
Yeah, let's do it.
What if we tried talking to Dominique?
Let's do it. She's in the western part of the valley. She's not in the western part of Michigan. She's in the West Valley in Surprise, Arizona. How are things looking there in Surprise, Dominique? Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you too. Happy Election Day. You know, right now we're outside of Surprise City Hall. This location has been the busiest and had the longest wait times all morning. But happy to report, I checked the Maricopa County Elections website. Right now they're saying 25 minutes, which is the shortest wait time that we've seen all throughout the morning. About 80 people or so in line so far. But this has really been a come and go spot. A lot of people, this parking lot has been full all morning when we've been out here. They've had patrol cars for directing traffic to get people parked where they need to go, as well as a lot of staff outside as well as inside who are monitoring the lines and really telling people where they need to be. And if anyone has any questions, they're here to help. So really the West Valley, Surprise City Hall has been busy, but so far these lines, the wait times looking really good if you still need to come in, cast your ballot, or drop off that ballot, guys.
General mood of, what would you say has been the general mood of people out there, Dominique? And I'll just mention, you really did pick a great location. I saw one of the national broadcasters right there, kind of right where you are, over the course of the last couple of hours as well. I think there's great interest because Surprise is a suburban location. You know, traditional thinking is that in the core of the urban area, it might be a little more blue leaning. It might be a little more red leaning as you go further out.
So true.
And, you probably haven't had much chance to talk with voters themselves, but is there a sense that, hey, we're glad we're getting this done and we can finally move on, or we're glad that the process has gone as smoothly? What has been your takeaway?
You know, I feel like typically with Election Day, everything is just heightened a little bit. More people are on edge, but I've seen a lot of smiles. People come out of here, smiles on their faces. Everyone's been nice to each other. We haven't seen any confrontational things, any issues. So that's a good thing to note as well. And I, like you said, with other outlets out here, I've seen CNN out here. I've seen NBC Network out here. So a lot of eyes, understandably, as we know, on Arizona this morning. But people, they're in good spirits. I think they're just happy to get in line quickly if they can and then get on their way. Some people I talked to earlier, the wait was about about an hour long or so. So they would come in and then they were told actually it was going to be about 2 hours long. So some folks I spoke with, they said we're going to another polling location and the staff was able to direct them where to go. Other people said they just waited in line. They had no issues. They were just able to, glad to cast their ballot. So mixed emotions as far as if they were able to vote here or not, but everyone's been in a good mood that I've talked to. No issues, which we like to see on Election Day. Everything moving swiftly and on a good note, you guys.
That is actually really good news to hear because you don't always hear that at polling places around the valley. You know, we saw some people walking behind you. Is that the building, Dominique, right behind you? Is that where folks are walking in to vote?
Yep. So this is Surprise City Hall right behind me, one entrance when you come and you go. Haven't seen any lines outside. Everyone's able to get inside really easily. And then once you do make your way through those double doors, I went inside not too long ago to use the bathroom, but I saw some lines out there. They do have an officer inside as well and some staff members. But yes, that is the front entrance there. And then the parking lot directly across the street. If that parking lot is full, there's a whole other dirt lot on the across from the parking lot where they do have those patrol cars who are able to direct traffic.
Two of the most interesting things in our reporting in the early hours this morning, Dom. One was that Irene Snyder was out in Mesa at the convention center, and even before they opened their doors, she counted close to 50 people in line at like 5:55.
Yeah, and it's cool this morning. It was cool this morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's sweater weather for sure. But then the other thing I thought that was so interesting, Dom, was your report early on. Tell us where you were in that 6 a.m. hour, because all of a sudden it was 6:01, 6:02, 6:03. People couldn't get in there to vote for a while.
Yeah, that was really interesting. So the 6 o'clock hour, we were at Wesley Community Center, still on the west side, a polling location for the West Side Valley residents. And like you said, Ron, those polling locations, they were supposed to open at 6 a.m. this morning. And when we came out to you live, we're like, okay, there was a group of people out there. I would say it counted about like 10, maybe 15. And we're saying, okay, any minute they're supposed to come through these doors. And we just kept waiting. And then by the end, I was done with my live report. It was 6:10. I glanced down and I asked Juan, my photographer, I said, just let me know, if they start letting people in. He never gave me the signal, and I turned around, and sure enough, it was still closed, which is frustrating for voters, especially those who come out and want to vote maybe before going to work or other obligations that they have in the morning. So not sure what the delay was over there, or really when doors opened, we had to move to another location, but it racked up quite a line out there. And yeah, I don't know what the issue was going on, but I would say it was at 6:15 when we started to drive away, and those people, they were still waiting out in the cold.
Oh, no.
It was dark.
Yeah.
So frustrating. Yeah.
Maybe somebody was late on the coffee run or getting the donuts. You never know. So there's only one person with a key
Couldn't
usually.
find the key. Right.
Couldn't find the key. Anybody got a badge? Anybody got a badge? Dom, your reporting has been great all day. We sure appreciate all that you've been able to offer our viewers and the voters of Arizona. So thank you.
Dominique, great job. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you want to give folks a quick glance at the mystery cam before we go to a quick break, Ron?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay.
So for first-time viewers of the podcast, we love doing this. We're going to do it for you right here, right now. And there is this beautiful shot. We invite you to jump into the YouTube chat box right now and tell us where you think this is. A slightly foggy start to the morning, some high, thin clouds, and yet some kind of green, verdant hills before you get down into town. What do you think, Celeste?
I'm going to go Oregon. Somewhere in Oregon, maybe?
Okay, yeah,
potentially.
Sure. Yeah, those hills start to green up. You know, I grew up right next door in Washington, and once you start getting the rain, that's the beauty of it. We don't limit you to a specific zip code when you're guessing.
Or intersection.
All you have to do is tell us what state. I think I'm going to go a little south of there and go into California.
Okay.
And watch, we'll both be wrong, but who knows? Join us in the chat box. We're going to take a 2-minute break and tell us where you think this picture is. Somewhere, I'm pretty sure it's in the good old US of A. We'll reveal the answer right after this break.
right, welcome back everyone to Fox 10 Talks, 10:45 this morning, and we have been showing you and talking about your mystery camera this morning. Ron, are you pulling it up on YouTube also?
Well, I was just reading the comments. You guys are great. Sometimes it's like the snappiest, most hilarious comments on YouTube, that's for sure. But we know we got people watching all over the country. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so here's a couple of, can we pop up that mystery cam? Thank you so much. Pop up that mystery cam. So we have Moldy Tacos Gaming, says that be California, LOL.
Ooh, nice.
RLS Vids says Oregon. B. Miguel says California. Okay. Lisa Dinsmore says, my husband says California, but she's with Celeste. She's with me. She says somewhere in Oregon because that's her home state.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, so then...
do we have the envelope in here?
We do. It's right in front of you, right over there.
Okay.
Do you want to just grab it?
Oh, it's right here.
Yeah, right there. Here we go. Come back out onto us on camera here, Glenn, and we're going to show... Celeste is just going to hold it up.
This is typically what we do in the pod.
I was looking around for another camera. I guess we don't have one. You'll have to put your squinters on. We'll actually show you.
Can you
right
see
over
that
here.
at all?
No, but look at what Simone's doing.
Simone, thank you.
Simone to the rescue. She's bringing over another camera.
Okay.
So we'll reveal it here in about 5 seconds.
There really was two answers, right?
Oh, really?
It was California and Oregon predominantly,
yes. Okay.
and it's Fremont, California.
I feel like Kelly's writing needs to be in a larger font.
Either that or you need to be a doctor.
Right.
What are the
writing out
others?
prescriptions, Kelly? Come on. Share the information.
What are the others?
Okay, so that is Cali.
It's Cali. It's Fremont,
Nice.
Good.
Good.
Nice work, everyone.
I'm trying to see who joins me in the victory circle. That would be,
Ron?
James said Idaho, by the way. No,
Stay humble,
it is
Ron.
Lisa.
Ron?
It's Lisa and Brandon. Celeste, I'm just stating facts.
Have you heard pride comes before a fall? I've heard that somewhere, Ron.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so we have fun every day with you guys when it's
Yes,
time
we
for the
do.
mystery cam. We have all these great cams all over the
Oh,
USA.
James said Idaho. Sorry, James.
Yep, right. It did have a little bit of a Boise look.
It
didn't
did with those like foothills. Boise has these foothills. That was my first gig in TV, and it has these beautiful foothills there.
Yeah. All right. So as promised, by the way, we're wrapping up in 10 minutes here, but we want to get you as much info as we possibly can.
Yes, we do.
Including some new video coming in from just today in terms of what the president, vice presidential candidates on both sides have been up to. But before, let's go to the map. I think this is really interesting. So Real Clear Politics. I particularly like them, Celeste, because they collate the averages of all of the polls, and not polls from like 6 months ago or 4 months ago, just in the last several days to get the best glimpse at what's going on. So let's walk you through the 7 battleground states. This is how they have changed in just the last 24 hours. Ready?
Okay, ready.
We're gonna do it alphabetically. So in Arizona, on Monday, they said Trump, with an average of all the polls, Trump up 2.6%. Today, Tuesday, final polling, actually a bump up for Trump to almost 3 percentage points.
Okay.
2.8%. Now that's the good news for the Trump camp. The not so good news is Georgia goes tighter. So yesterday they had Trump up 2 points, basically 1.9%. Today they're saying that she is closing the gap, Kamala Harris, and they are saying that now Trump's lead is at 1.3%. Walk us through Michigan, would you?
Okay, so Michigan, on Monday, they had Michigan up Harris 1.2%.
That was Monday.
That was Monday.
Okay.
And then Tuesday, they had Harris up by 0.5%.
To me, that's a big shift in one day.
Huge.
Isn't it?
So that means there was like a lot of maybe votes and, you know, they were not calculating correctly maybe. But we have also Real Clear Politics average of polls. This is in 7 swing states. A big reminder for you if you're just chiming in. Right. North Carolina, they had Trump up 1.5%. That was on Monday.
Yes.
Tuesday up 1.2%. So dropped just a little bit.
And that might be part of the reason they started their day in Raleigh yesterday. If there's a movement toward Kamala Harris in that crucial battleground state, and we still wonder, did everybody who wanted to cast a vote, were they able to? You know, I mean, they only got school going again in Asheville, North Carolina, about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, they had to put up those tents so that people could actually get in to vote.
Right. Yeah. Here's another one where there's been a shift in the last 24 hours. The final polling versus yesterday, Nevada. Trump was up 1 point exactly Monday, and the final Real Clear average shows that lead shrinking in Nevada couldn't be a lot closer. Trump now up 0.6%. And then the granddaddy of them all, Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania, and I'll give you the stats on who's fast and who's slow in just a minute here. But in Pennsylvania, they still have it so close. Monday, it was Trump up 0.3%. Today, just a tick stronger for Trump, up 0.4%. But it really looks like they could be counting there for another 2 or 3 days.
It would be interesting to hear from the people in Pennsylvania, too, if anybody's watching and happens to have family or anybody from PA, because they have been inundated with political candidates and visits for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the VPs visited and the presidential candidates more than maybe 10 times in the last week
I think
alone.
you're right. You know, our evening weather guy, Corey, he's a Pennsylvanian.
Oh, why don't we give Corey a call?
Yeah, well, he just comes from a little town called Millersburg. That's about the only town left in Pennsylvania that I haven't heard they went to yet.
Yeah.
So.
Well, maybe they'll visit there.
By the way, the last state there was going to be Wisconsin, and that shows Kamala Harris with the lead.
Yes.
At the exact same numbers the last 2 days, 0.4%. So that's really fast.
You know, and Ron, I'm glad you brought up the Real Clear Politics. It's a great resource, not just for some of these numbers, but it aggregates all of the headlines from all of the different periodicals and websites and news headlines. And so you have a one-stop shop to read, no matter if it's a left-leaning, a right-leaning, a down-the-middle type of independent publication online in the newspaper. It's a great resource.
It's a good website, but it ain't quite as good as ours.
That's true.
Fox10phoenix.com. Boy, there's so much info there, especially if you're voting here in Arizona and you want to get the very
polling
latest.
places, you gotta know where to vote.
Glenn, could we go back to that map one more time? There was one last thing I wanted to share. Fox did this beautiful, fascinating analysis of do they count fast or do they count slow in each of these states? Ready, Celeste?
Ready.
I'm going to ask you to guess. I have the 7 state answers. Arizona, are they fast or slow?
They're slow.
We are slow.
We're very slow.
4 years ago, we only had 82% of the vote counted and out there by election night. Georgia, fast or slow?
Fast.
You're correct. They had 95% of all the votes counted on election night. What about Michigan?
I'm going to say fast.
You're right again.
Really?
Did you see this list before?
No, I did not.
Okay. Yeah, they're fast. Last election night, 4 years ago, they had 94% of the vote in, and that's even despite the fact they have that massive metro area of Detroit. So
we need to learn more about what they are doing right.
Yes.
And
correct.
Incorporate that into our
policy. Create a committee
policy
and put them all on one plane.
Everybody loves a committee.
Yeah.
And
well,
those long meetings.
Here's where you need to go is North Carolina. Are they fast or slow?
I'm going to go slow.
They are fast.
Okay.
And they had 99% of the vote counted on election night.
Good for them.
So it's good for them, and I'm sure we could learn a couple of things or two from them. What about Nevada?
Slow.
Super
slow.
Super duper slow.
Wow.
85%.
Everybody's at the casino.
Right. You know, there are these betting websites now.
Yeah, everywhere.
You know, and so that's been really fascinating to see what goes on there. All right, last two. Pennsylvania, they are
fast.
They're slow.
Oh.
It could take 3 days before we know for sure. They only had 82% counted. So either if Harris or Trump can pull off most of these faster counting states,
yes,
maybe it won't come down to Pennsylvania, but it's quite likely it will. We may not know by tomorrow morning. But I encourage you to join us for Fox 10 at 4:30 a.m.
Quick note, Ron,
Yes.
Our numbers are climbing on YouTube. So if you are just joining us and you're new to the pod, chime in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you, where you're from, if you voted, how you're doing. Do you need the Calm app to help you, because it's so stressful? You know, don't worry, we don't have political ads here. So you're free from that.
We need some, actually. Ron. How come the TV guys get all the political ads, right?
Yeah,
I guess it's all done.
But we do
anyway.
have freebies. Do you want to talk about some freebies for folks?
Yes.
On election day.
Oh, did you want to mention that real quick? Go for it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Here's a quick mention here. Starbucks offering 30% off of orders $20 or more.
Okay.
I know you're not a Starbucks consumer, though.
Yeah, I'm more about getting my caffeine from the soda. Krispy Kreme has a free original glazed donut today, but it's only one. And the problem with Krispy Kreme donuts, they're like Lay's potato chips. Bet you can't eat just one. IKEA has free frozen yogurt. Although you got to park your car in the parking lot. and then walk through the store. I mean, you'll get your steps in. That's what we're saying. Johnny Rockets has a free shake with any in-store purchase. Show your I voted sticker.
Oh, that's cool. So Uber, listen to this. If you need a ride to the polls, Uber and Lyft both offering 50% off of those rides, up to $10 to polling places. So you can't take it to, like, you know, school or work or whatever, unless you're going to vote there.
All
Maybe.
right.
You never know.
Hey, one last thing. I think we have videotape of the candidates, the presidential and vice presidential candidates. So let's roll that before we hit our break here in about 3 minutes. So Kamala Harris had said earlier, oh, by the way, here's the video of President Trump, former President Donald Trump and Melania. Earlier he said he was going to vote early, but then he changed his mind and said, I want to vote day of. And he had a chance to speak to the media and said he felt very confident about how the results were going to come out tonight. So we saw that. Let's go to our next piece of tape, and we can show you what else was going on. We have President Trump there. Tim Walz, he had one last get out the vote event in where, Celeste? Pennsylvania.
That's right.
I mean, it's all going to come down.
It's been a busy place.
Yeah. He is high energy. I mean, I don't know if he's already taken advantage of his Starbucks opportunity.
I don't know. I thought he was going to do a cartwheel as he made his way to the top of the stage. I don't know.
Yeah, if he did a round off back handspring, I would be
Well, I think
so impressed.
gymnasts around the state would vote.
Let's go to Ohio. I actually wasn't sure where in Ohio he was from. I guess I just sort of assumed the Cleveland metro area is so humongous, but he's from Cincinnati, and the Ohio senator was there with his family this morning as they cast, both he and his wife cast their votes in person there in Cincinnati, home to one of our earlier presidents, President Taft.
Okay.
When I was in town there a couple of years ago, I toured that home. It's really it's like Taft basically locked up and walked away a few minutes early.
Oh.
Yeah. By the way, no appearances today so far from Kamala Harris, but again, she's got that big event for later tonight. Right there in Washington at Howard University.
All right, we are going to show you here a live look at our county offices. What we do have is a podium and a microphone awaiting some of our county officials. We are going to hear more about the process here today, how it's going inside this building here in downtown Phoenix, the building that you see right behind this podium. That is where we have a lot of elections officials and volunteers and workers here all across the great state of Arizona who have gathered and who are counting those ballots and putting in the time and the effort that it takes to do something like this. They are true patriots and doing their civic duty.
Yeah, it really seems like everything is running smoothly, but we'll get the update. That's going to be at 11 o'clock, so we'll take a 2-minute break. We will wrap up the podcast portion here, but we are going to continue for you live to hear the very latest info from our county officials right here on YouTube and Fox Local.